a very good morning to all the members connected with us. As told my ma'am, today the first discussion will be on the various instructional strategies that as a teacher we need to adopt. It is for out when we talk about outcome based education. So in outcome based education, the major objective is to focus on the behavior of the student, that what they need to do after the completion maybe of the program or the course or the subject. And when it comes to disseminate information among student population as far as the content or the practical part of every subject is concerned, there are certain methodologies that need to be adopted by the teachers. So when I'm saying the certain methodologies need to be adopted by the teacher, nowadays in the purview of digital pedagogy, the teacher can select many of the media that is available. It can be open access media or other platforms that are available. But even when we are integrating technology in our teaching learning practices, as a teacher, I must have understanding that for what teaching strategy, what kind of media platform is more appropriate. When we are conducting the curriculum analysis, at that part also as a faculty I need to understand that for the achievement of the various learning outcomes and the various course level outcomes, when as a teacher I'm dealing with that particular content, what are the different teaching methods. So when it comes to the selection of the various instructional strategy, started from the analysis of the curriculum up to when the teacher is delivering the content in the class, and when finally the student for evaluation purposes using the content for his or her own understanding or preferences, the instructional strategies plays an important role. So in this particular session we are going to explain the three different categories under which we will cover many of the instructional strategies, that is individual, cooperative and collaborative teaching techniques. So when I'm saying individual teaching method, so it may be the part of your traditional lecture approaches. When I'm saying the cooperative teaching methodology, it may be for the more immature learners in your classroom, maybe for the first and second year students of your institution. And when I'm saying collaborative teaching learning strategies, when once as a faculty I consider that up to this extent my students are able to understand the content or the requirement of a specific branch of specialization, now it is my responsibility to develop the confidence and courage among my student population to go through the content by their own and use the content as per the activities or assessments provided to them. And in the meantime, as a department, as an institute, we need to develop some of the soft skills among our student population too, because that is the major requirement of industry and the business environment. So what are the different teaching strategies that can be adopted by the teacher as per the nature of the subject assigned, as per the level of the population in terms of student available to him or her, and even as per the facilities that is available with that particular faculty. So, to start with, when we said teaching learning strategies, we need to first understand that when it comes to the teaching, teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning. So when I'm saying that teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, and in the initial discussion we said the teaching methodology that is adopted by the teacher, it is not only as per the content that he or she is going to deliver, but it is as per the level of the students also available with you in a class. So when I'm saying the teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, as a teacher, whenever I am adopting a teaching methodology, say for example a teaching method that is case study method of teaching. So for case study method of teaching, the major requirements at the part of the students are the student must read the case thoroughly, the student must able to understand the content that is given in the case. When the teacher is designing that case for the student, it is as per the requirement of that particular content or the syllabus for a given subject, and what are the different objectives or outcomes the teacher want to achieve out of that case study analysis. So when I'm saying teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, say for example, any faculty who selected a case from an industry, or maybe from some foreign university, or maybe from some other school of thought, that case may not be applicable for your student population as per the level of understanding they might be having. So when I'm saying teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, it is the main objective or agenda of the teacher that how they are going to organize that learning experience. So when I'm saying the case study method of teaching, it may be applicable to the student population who is available with us in tier 1 institutions, for tier 3 institution, or for the institutions where maximum facility is not available with the student. Maybe case study method of teaching is not a good approach selected by the teacher. For that institution, maybe individual active learning strategies like 1 minute paper, muddiest point, numbered head together can be an appropriate approach. So when I'm saying the teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, the first thing the teacher need to identify that what kind of learning environment or what kind of organized experiences he want for their students to experience, and what kind of organization need to be there. So most of the time at different institutions, we are using lecture method again and again. And when I'm saying a lecture method, I need to convey that lecture method can be of two different types. One is the traditional approach of lecturing. So when I'm saying the traditional approach of lecturing, it is moreover a one-way kind of communication that is happening in a classroom environment. And when the teacher is using the traditional lecture approach, the major objective of the teacher might be to cover the syllabus, to cover the content. But when there is a one way flow of communication in a classroom, and when the students are not participating in that particular lecture, sometimes the coverage of content will be there, but we are not able to achieve the different learning outcomes that is defined by the teacher as per the nature of the subject. So when I'm saying teaching must results into equivalent amount of learning, the first key takeaway that as a faculty I need to take away from this particular discussion is the kind of learning environment that you as a faculty going to create for your students. So what kind of organized experiences you want your students to have when as a teacher you are delivering or engaging session for them. When I'm saying the lecture method, when the teacher is deciding just to cover the content or the syllabus provided to him or her, most of the time the teachers are using the one way flow of communication, or we can say the traditional approach of lecturing. But with the traditional approach of lecturing, the students who are not up to that level of understanding, they are not able to develop, or they are not able to deliver the different learning outcome that is designed by the teacher before engaging the session. So in a traditional lecture method, the teacher is able to cover the content, but somewhere as a teacher, we need to analyze that whether my students are able to achieve those learning outcomes or not. If they are not able to achieve the learning outcome, as a teacher, I need to introduce few of the individual learning strategies in my class so that I can convert my traditional lecture approach to engaging lecture. So, when I'm saying a traditional lecture approach, as a teacher, when I'm delivering the content to my student and I'm using lecture method again and again, somewhere as a teacher, I'm considering that my students' population is homogeneous by nature. So, when I'm saying homogeneous by nature, homogeneous means I'm considering that their EQ ability and IQ ability as at the similar level. That is why I'm using the same teaching method for all the students available in my class. So lecture method is a very good approach when the student population is very high. So in this particular class, when ma'am said there are 196 participants available and there are 10 remote centers that are available with me. And suppose if I'm start asking question to this large population, so approximately maybe I'm having 300 to 350 participants available with me at present. So suppose if I'm start taking questions from you people, it is very difficult for me to cover the content on time. It is very difficult for me to handle the amount of questions that may be available with me on the platform. So, by knowing my population, it is known to me that this lecture method, the traditional way of lecture, is an appropriate approach for this large population. But at the same time, maybe in the end of the session, when I'm asking to all of you that if you have any question, if you want any clarification, or if you want to add something, because we are having a matured population available with us on the platform. So maybe we have new insights, or maybe we have something new to learn for the coming sessions or the similar kind of sessions that I'm going to engage. So when I'm saying the traditional lecture approach, and we are considering that all the population available with me in this particular platform at this particular time, I'm considering that they are the experienced faculty members. So this is a homogeneous kind of group that is available with me. So lecture method is a best approach to deal with the large number of population. But suppose in my institute, when for the 40 students or maybe for the 60 students available with me in my class, I cannot consider that all the students are at the similar level of understanding. Their IQ ability may vary, their pace of understanding the content may vary. When it comes to the coverage of the content, it is a one point of the lecture method, but how my students are undergoing that particular information, when I'm disseminating information to my student, whether my students are able to go through that content fully in their own personal time or not. So in that particular case, the lecture method as per the population available with me may not be a good approach. So that is a disadvantage of using lecture method when we are considering homogeneous kind of population available with us. And for a student population, there are many research studies available that clearly indicate that as the lecture continues, the retention of the new material starts declining. So why the retention of the new material start declining? Because the teacher is not engaging the students in that particular content, in that particular context. So students, sometimes they are available with us physically, but mentally they are not available with us. So lecture method is a very good approach when the student population is matured by nature, their level of understanding is very high. But for the student population for whom the content is new, they want to develop understanding for that particular content, we need to convert the traditional lecture approach into an active lecture approach. So there are certain advantages as we discussed for the lecture method also, but at the same time, if the teacher is continuing with that lecture method approach again and again, might be students are not with the teacher all the time. Another important thing that I would like to share over here is that when it comes to the teaching specifically in the purview of OBE, outcome based education, I need to understand that my student population nowadays available in different institution is not of the similar kind. So when I'm saying similar kind, we need to understand who our learners are. So when it comes to understanding learners, we need to understand few of the characteristics of this particular population. So nowadays the students who are available with us in our classroom environment, they are more connected to social media. So when I'm saying more connected to social media, so this is a case that I have collected from one of the research study. So that case mentioned that the characteristic of this particular net generation is that they are very closely integrated themselves with the use of technology, and they are using, because it is available 24 into 7, so students are using it nowadays as a communication tool. And at the same time, when it comes to the specific behavioral characteristics of this particular generation, those students are social by nature. Those students are competing with each other, but at the same time they are collaborating with each other. So they are helping each other for the development of the content, and they are helping each other when it comes to the submission of the different activities and assignments that is designed by the teacher. They are the student who want to work in team. So when we are saying the cooperative teaching learning strategies and collaborative teaching learning strategies, why in outcome based education these kind of strategies is in more demand? Because students by nature, they want to work in a team kind of an environment. They are very comfortable when it comes to the number of activities that they are performing simultaneously. They are not just using the technological resources, but at the same time they are able to develop those resources also. So when it comes to the adoption of the IT or the information technology, they are able to use those resources, particularly with respect to the web based services. So when I'm saying the net generation students, those students are available online, maybe on the social media platform like WhatsApp. They are available on X, they are available on Twitters, they are available on Facebook, they are available on Instagram. So there are many social media websites or the platforms that are available. Students are developing team not for only for the entertainment purposes, but also they are using this platform for academic exchange also. So these students are closely related with and connected on social media platform. They are not just developing using resources, they are also able to develop resources for their customized resources for their own need. And these students adapt spaces to their needs. So when it comes to the new generation student, the students are carrying technology maybe in the form of iPads, maybe in the form of smartphones, maybe in the form of smart watches, maybe in the form of the various technological devices that they can carry along with themselves in the institute if the institute allow them. They are creating resources that are personalized by nature. I have seen and observed many of the students at university level or in different institutions. When the teacher is developing something on a board, maybe a whiteboard or a blackboard, the students are not in the habit of writing. The students simply using their smartphones, taking pictures of those boards, creating a PDF and providing those PDF not only to the students available in the class, but also the students who were not able to attend class on a specific day. So when the teacher is delivering information to the student in a class, maybe by using the various resources available, the students are able to create their own personalized resources. Nowadays students are not photocopying the content that is available to them. They're simply scanning and creating PDF and providing PDF to the large population, not specific to their institutions, but out of the institution also in their other circle. So they are able to create their personalized resources. And another important thing before understanding the use, why we require different instructional methods or teaching strategy, we need to understand that in education also trend is changing. It is not just because of NEP 2020. Before NEP 2020 also we are integrating technology in our teaching learning practices. And with the introduction of the various MOOC programs in education, maybe on Swayam platform, on other private platforms available with us, students understand that the various content is available on different websites or different platform, and this content is provided by number of faculty members throughout the country and even from other countries also. So the basic trend in education that the students are following nowadays, if they are not comfortable with the content delivered by me as a subject faculty in a given institute, they are able to search that content maybe on YouTube, maybe on other courses or the programs that is available. So the major trend that is ongoing in education nowadays, student knows the education is available on different platforms, so whenever wherever they want. So they created a personalized kind of environment in the teaching learning activities also, and there are diverse places of learning. So students need not to confine themselves in concrete classrooms that was the in traditional era. So in today's environment, a laptop can be a classroom for the student. Even the cafeteria of the institute can be converted into a classroom kind of a space. The personal space of the student can also be converted into a classroom kind of environment when the student is undergoing different programs or different subjects that is available with him or her on different platforms. So that is the major trend in education. So when it comes to the selection of the different teaching methodologies, The selection of teaching methodology as per the level of the student, we first need to identify the various characteristics that is available with me in my class. So when I'm saying the different characteristics available with me in a class, it means as a teacher I need to add diversity in my teaching learning experiences. So when I'm saying diversity in teaching learning experiences, so maybe one day I'm engaging my session by the use of flipped classroom of teaching. Another day, as per the demand of the content or as per the level of my student, I'm simply engaging my students by the use of lecture method. Third day, when my student want to do something in my presence where they want, the content is complex by nature, so students are not able to understand that content fully. So maybe as a teacher I'm using numbered head together as a teaching strategy. When my student want to be the part of specific discussion, in that particular case maybe I'm using a fishbowl method of discussion in my classroom environment. So the major objective is when it comes to the selection of the different teaching methodology in the purview of outcome based education, I need to decide that what are the major characteristics available with me in my class, what is the nature of the content that is available with me, how I'm going to complete the task analysis of that particular lesson or the class, and what teaching methodology is most appropriate as so that I can fulfill the requirement of my class student along with the coverage of that particular content. So these are the few of the characteristics and the need of the learning spaces that we need to have at institute level. So we need to map each and everything. It is your content, it is your student population, it is the kind of facilities available at the institute, and as a faculty what is my comfort and order. So while sitting at NITE Chandigarh I cannot say that case study method of teaching is a very good method of teaching. I cannot dictate that from tomorrow onwards you are going to integrate flipped classroom and teaching in at your institute. I cannot say that blended approach of learning or teaching is a very good method when it comes to develop understanding of your student. It is you as a faculty who is going to decide as per the subject assigned to you and as per the level of the students that is available with you. And when it comes to the creation of the learning environment, earlier we are saying that when it comes to the selection of the teaching methodology, it is the teacher who is going to decide that what kind of organized experiences I want my students to have. So when it comes to create that kind of a learning environment, as a teacher I need to understand that there is a structured process of learning that I want to create in my classroom. So for that structured kind of experience I need to account for the kind of knowledge, the kind of skill, the kind of attitude I want to develop among my student population, that after the completion of a specific program, later on in their life, they will be able to use that learning and they will be able to show that kind of learning experiences in the form of skill that they will be able to adapt in a given environment. So when it comes to the selection of the different teaching methodology for this particular population, we need to understand there are two different kind of theories on which the education system is working right now. I'm not going into the detail of the theoretical concepts of those theories. You can search online. These theories are easily available. So the first thing that we need to understand is student want constructivism, and it must be a social constructivism. So student want to develop their knowledge and understanding in line with the interdisciplinary approach, and they want this kind of experiences to be active by nature. Along with it, student want the kind of learning that is happening at institution level, it must develop a sense of the world around them and they will be able to apply. So we need to understand that we are developing learning communities. So when I'm saying traditional approach of teaching or the digital pedagogical approaches at institute level, when we are hybrid these two kind of approaches, I need to understand that what kind of social engagement need to be there. So what needs to be the context of that particular learning. So when I'm saying the project based classes, in a project based classes my student must develop social skills. After developing the social skills, my students will be able to complete that activity. Project activity we are giving in groups or we are giving in teams. So it is not easy for an individual student to complete the task provided to them, because it's a large kind of assignment. So students are working either in groups or either in team. So that is the context of that learning environment. So when my students are working in team and working in groups, I need to understand that social skills must be there among student population. Only then they are able to identify the project leader. Only then they are able to find out who is accountable for what kind of activity in a given project. So social context is a major requirement of that teaching environment. And when the students are working in teams and groups, we are taking an example of a project based activity, what kind of participation need to be there? So when as a teacher I'm assessing the performance of that particular team or that particular group, I need to understand, and as a whole, how they are taking that particular activity or assignment. And when I'm assessing the performance, what kind of parameters I need to understand. So in outcome based education, when we are talking about the achievement of different learning outcomes and objective, as a teacher I need to understand there must be the communities in which learnings are going to be happened. And as a teacher, when I'm creating these kind of learning environment, what are the major things that we need to understand? So it means whenever we are creating a learning environment, there must be a genuine learning that is happened at institute level. So when I'm saying the genuine learning, so test, recap, and explain. NEP 2020 is also saying and dictating that in education, the assessment must be a continuous process. And when it comes to an assessment, assessment for learning. So we must gradually improve the quality of the work that is produced by the student at institute level. So lifelong learning skills, that may be adaptation, that may be co-participation, that may be collaboration, that may be the development of different soft skills, that may be the development of different employable skills among student population, along with the knowledge in that specific branch. So when I'm saying genuine learning, the teacher need to test, means assessment must be the continuous assessment. If the students are not able to do good in those assessment practices, as a teacher I need to recap that particular content and then explain again. Yes, you're
Is this
audible to me, sir.
yeah, is this hybrid mode of teaching is better, or the traditional classroom teaching would be better in the current situation?
Prabhakar sir, when it comes to the hybrid mode of teaching, na, already discussed with all of you that when it comes to the use of the teaching methodology, it may be digital pedagogy, you can call it a hybrid pedagogy, or you can call it a traditional approach. It depends upon three major key factors. One is the what kind of student population you have at institute level. Second, what kind of subject you are going to deal with for that particular population. And third major thing is what kind of facilities available at institute. There may be student in your class who are verbal learners. So for verbal learners, traditional approach of teaching may be a very good approach of teaching, because they are having a structured kind of information. There may be students in your class who want to use technology a lot. They are integrating technology in their day-to-day life, so they want hybrid kind of teaching approaches. There may be students in your class who are the naturalistic or the global learners. So for those learners, when it comes to an information that is advanced by nature, so they are going to like that kind of a teaching environment. So that is why as a teacher, when I'm planning for my course or for my subject, I need to add diversity. So maybe one day I'm using the hybrid approach of teaching, another day I'm creating a structured kind of working with the use of traditional lecture method, and the third day I'm organizing a kind team or a group kind of environment, so that rest of my learners can come into the picture and I'm able to fulfill their expectations. So we need
Thank you,
to
madam.
go through the course content, and as per the course content, we need to define the teaching approach.
Sure, madam. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, when we start our session or semester teaching, we need to prepare a lecture plan where we have to give a strategy of instruction delivery in that lecture plan. So when we have to decide that what mix of instructional strategy we have to choose, because suppose I am teaching computer organization, so I know that
So this
this
subject is
subject
for
might be,
which semester students?
this is for third semester
Third
students.
semester. Okay.
Yes. So, ma'am, when should we decide? Because third semester students, they are coming from, first year, and first year is totally, handled by the other department. So, when should we decide that what mix of students are coming to us, so that we can better, uh, find out the instructional strategy that has to be chosen for a particular topic in our lecture plan, because lecture plan has to be given before the semester is starting and before we have even interacted with the students.
Yes.
So there was not a single session that we have a student. It's only through, I think, through first 4 or 5 days that we come to know that okay, the students are of this type. But the lecture plan we had to prepare. So
Yes.
when
So
to
I
change,
understood
yeah.
your question, ma'am. So when it comes to the use of the different teaching methodology, initially when you are preparing for your coursework files or you are deciding the different kind of lessons that you are going to deliver, that is as per the nature of the content that is available. So to
Yes,
fulfill the
ma'am.
various accreditation criteria at institute level, we are preparing our coursework file as per the content available with us. But once as a teacher we got into that particular class, we start interacting with the student, we come to know that whatever I am delivering by using XYZ teaching methodology, my students are not going to like that, or my students are not willingly participating in those activities. And Lee S. Schulman, he's a psychologist. He given a very good statement about this particular teaching profession. He said, after some 30 years of analyzing teaching, I have concluded that classroom teaching is perhaps the most complex, most challenging, demanding, nuanced, and frightening activity that our species has ever invented. So you're talking about the same one, similar kind of a problem over here. So initially, when we are preparing for the content, the course files, we are preparing that content as per the nature of the content or the subject that is provided to us. And suppose you decided 10 different teaching methodology to be adopted throughout the semester. And once you start interacting with your student, you can change the teaching method. As a teacher, I'm in my class, I'm the leader of that particular class. So I can use the servant or shared style of leadership qualities. So at any point of time when I am able to assess or understand that my students are not going with this particular teaching methodology, I need to have instructional decision where I can change the methodology. So you are not going to change the content, but you can adopt a different kind of teaching methodology to cover that particular content. You are saying the students are of third semester, so those students need to develop basic understanding for the branch of specialization. For those students, as per my opinion, so again it is my suggestion, so, as per my suggestion, in the initial phase of the semester, go by the lecture method approach. So, when I'm saying go by the lecture method approach, lecture method provide you a control where you can select different kind of methodologies to be adopted in a classroom. You are controlling that particular class, so it is easy for you to assess the performance of the student, and it is easy for you to provide as many as activities you want to give to your student, because time available with the teacher in a lecture method is large as compared to the other teaching approaches. So initially maybe for 10 to 15 days lecture method to develop the basic understanding related to that particular subject. Once that level of understanding is developed, you can shift your approach to cooperative teaching methodologies. Cooperative means where students in the presence of the faculty delivering or going through a content, and teacher is providing them the corrective actions and measures, and the peer group is also helping each other for developing the understanding. So for third semester, lecture method and cooperative learning strategies need to be there.
Suppose we are going for providing the quality education and quality teaching and learning, and suppose just you told and discuss about that. every technique of teaching is not suitable for everyone. So in this scenario, when we are going to teaching in a general class, and now according to the trends, and now we are going to a general class, maybe BTech or MBA or any class, and now there are the different types of the students. Some are god gifted, some are lower, and some are medium classes, and we cannot change time to time of the strategy of teaching. So in this scenario, what are the some relevant strategy, whatever the strategy we have to follow in a lecture method, in another method, that we have to cover in a one class, and we can cater all our students, and we can also make the quality of teaching in class.
Thank you very much, Munawar sir. So when it comes to the selection of the different teaching methodology, and you have variety of learners available in your class, first the content must be a tailor-made content. When I'm saying the content must be a tailor-made content, so whatever content the teacher is providing, I have seen many of the faculty members when they're organizing classes for the student, they are not allowing them to record the sessions. So once the teacher is delivering the content in a classroom, the teacher need to provide flexibility to the student that they can record that information. Say for example, if I'm delivering my session by using a lecture approach, and there are students in my class who are not able to match the pace I am delivering, and they are able to understand or assimilate that information. So if I allow them to record my information at any point of time, whenever they are comfortable, they can go through that lecture again. So recording session can be the one provision that I always provide to my student. But at the same time, when my students are recording that information, as a teacher I must be very vigilant and very observant that what kind of recording is happening in my classroom environment. So when I'm delivering the content, no personal remarks, no personal suggestions need to be the part of that particular session. So content must be tailor made. The recording provisions, or in the form of printouts, I need to provide information beforehand to my class student. When I'm using a presentation method of teaching, in a presentation method of teaching, the first major requirement that the teacher need to fulfill is, before starting delivering that particular session, the handouts of that presentation need to be available with the student. So there may be a high IQ level student, there may be low IQ level student. So student, after going through that particular content, can match the pace of the faculty coverage. And as a teacher, as Ganga ma'am said, that in the initial phase of the semester, when you are planning for the course, you need to understand that what part of the content it is very easy for this level of student to go through in an ace. If it is not easy for them, what are the different provisions I am providing to my student? So maybe I'm not using the advanced teaching methodologies, that is corporate and collaborative learning, but at the same time I need to create discussions in my class. I need to have a continuous assessment in my class. So maybe I'm asking a simple questions to my student. So it is the teacher who is going to decide that, as per the content available and as per the student available, what are the major requirement. And we are very lucky as a faculty that nowadays we are not only dependent upon the reference textbooks that are available. As a teacher, I can map the content that is available online with me, and I can simply provide the links to my student that for this particular information, this content that is available maybe on naptel or maybe on MOOCs platform or maybe in the form of PDF or a research study available with us. So simply download that content and read that content. So nowadays teachers are saying that teaching nowadays is very difficult because there is an integration of technology. We need to use hybrid teaching. On the other side, my viewpoint is, as a teacher, I need to develop content again and again. That content is already available. I need to map the content as per the level of the student. So now time available with me is 10:50. So we will directly discuss few of the teaching methodology. So when it comes to the use of the different teaching methodologies, we need to understand that at a given point of time in every classroom, these are the four different elements in which we are interacting with our student. The very first one is the speaking and listening. Most of the time, when the teacher is using the different teaching approaches, speaking and listening skills plays an important role. So as a teacher, when I'm interacting with my student, the first listening ability that as a faculty I need to develop is I must have active listening. uh, that must be the habit of that must be the part of my behavior, I would say. So when I'm an active listener, I'm not just listening to the statements of my student, but at the same time I'm listening to the overall behavior that is displayed by my student. Whatever content I'm delivering to my class, or the kind of engagement that I want my student to show while interacting, what kind of experiences I'm creating for my student. Say, for example, your student is asking a question to you, and that question is a very specific kind of a statement the student is asking. But somehow, as a teacher, I'm not able to understand that question fully, or somehow I'm not able to respond because I'm not prepared with that particular content. So how I'm responding to that particular experience, so that experience, how the teacher is displaying, or and how the teacher is accepting in that case or in that scenario, develop the engagement level of the student. So when I'm saying speaking and listening, when the teacher is speaking, the overall behavior come into picture. It is not only the verbal explanation, but it is the non-verbal behavior also. With the student are catching different kind of messages. When the student teacher is using active listening, empathetic listening, appreciative listening in a classroom environment, it is possible for the teacher to engage the students in the process of learning. So as a teacher, when I want my student to create some kind of a learning or going through some kind of organized experience, I need to understand that speaking and listening plays an important role. Whatever teaching method, whatever teaching media you are selecting at your institute level, so speaking and listening are the two major skills in which the teacher need to have mastery. The second is the writing. How much writing is compulsory in a classroom environment? Nowadays, with the integration of technology, there are many tools available with the faculty and with the student that they can use for writing purposes. So, as a teacher, I need to understand that note taking is no more an activity that need to be the part of classroom environment, because content is readily available. When I'm giving written assignment to my student, how I'm going to check or how I'm going to assess that whether the writing that is produced by my student is his or her own or not. So when I'm giving a writing activity, is it an independent writing activity that is happening in a classroom environment, or my student need to have that take home assignment kind of a culture where student by using any AI tool can reproduce the content. So writing must be the part of a classroom environment, because student need to know how to write. But what kind of writing experiences as a teacher do you are going to give them, that need to be think upon by the teacher specifically for this particular generation. When I'm saying reading, what kind of reading my student need to have for that particular content. So rather than spoon feeding information to the student population, if their IQ level is up to the mark, the teacher can give independent reading assignments to the student. And once they read those assignments at home or in their personal spaces, those reading assignment can be clubbed with some sort of a writing activity where students can reflect upon their learning. So earlier, when we are saying writing activity, there is a trend of giving three different written assignments to the student. And out of these three assignments, two best will be considered for their internal evaluation. But nowadays, when it comes to the use of this writing approach in a classroom environment, I need to understand that independent writing need to be the part, and it is not a take home kind of assignment. This assessment need to be happened in a classroom environment under the surveillance of the faculty. So four major elements: speaking, listening, writing, reading, and reflecting. Reflecting will happen when there is a group based, team based kind of activity, or maybe the peer kind of learning environment the teacher is going to be created. So for the creation of these kind of learning environment, there are two major assumptions that we need to consider, that learning by nature is an active endeavor. So when I'm saying learning by nature is an active endeavor, suppose you want to develop some sort of psychomotor skill among your student. Psychomotor means the practical skill you want to develop your student. It can happen in a practical class also, environment also, and it can also be the part of your theory lecture. So when the teacher is showing a YouTube video to the students are observing that information. The students are interacting with that content while sitting in a class. So that is again, the students are covering the content, but it's a practical kind of experience the teacher is creating in a classroom environment, and students are actively participating in that particular engagement. When the students are performing something by their own, so when I'm saying performance, and one faculty said that there are variety of students, some whose IQ level is very high and some whose IQ level is very low. So in these kind of classrooms, when we are creating a peer group or peer activity, one student is helping another student. Numbered head teaching method is a teaching approach where the student can develop different teams by identifying the varying abilities available in a class. Suppose the team of four members, four students, one student with high IQ ability, one student with medium IQ ability, and two are the students who are having low IQ ability. So the team helping each other, team members are helping each other to develop understanding of that particular content, and teacher is creating that activity in a sense that first for 15 minutes, suppose they are delivering the content. After 15 minutes, when the teacher is asking question to the teams, the team can sit together, think about that information, develop that information among each other, and then provide response to the teacher. So that is another approach, numbered head together, by which we can focus upon the variety of IQ ability available in our class. So, learning by nature is an active endeavor, and when it comes to the use of teaching approaches, we need to understand that there are variety of teaching methods and elements that is happening in a class. So, if the teacher is using a traditional lecture method, the average retention rate of information is only 5%. When the teacher is engaging the student, maybe in a case study kind of reading, 10% retention of material is there. When the teacher is using audio visual aid, so maybe he or she is displaying a YouTube video in a classroom environment, 20% of information, demonstration 30%, discussion group, it's not group discussion, it is the creation of discussion group. So one method of creating discussion group is fishball method of teaching. So when the teacher is using these kind of teaching strategies, approximately 50%, practice by doing. So when the teacher is giving full of activities in a classroom environment, the retention of material is approximately 75%. But when they are using that teaching or immediate use of the learning, so maybe a peer group, maybe a group based assignment, the approximation retention of material is 90%. So it is you as a teacher who is going to decide that what approach you are going to use. So I'm not saying that lecture method is not a good approach, but at the same time, the average retention rate, if the lecture is of 45 minutes, suppose the average retention rate at the part of the student is 5%. So as a teacher, I need to think upon that whenever I'm delivering a lecture, I need to consider that how I'm going to distribute those 45 minutes for my student population. So maybe initially 15 minutes I will deliver the content to my students, and after delivering 15 minutes of information, there is a one small activity that I am going to give to my student. Suppose in a lecture method of 45 minutes, I'm considering that average retention as per research is only 5%. So how I can increase the average retention rate of my student? So while delivering information, I need to divide my lecture in a sense that I can add various assessment activities where I can understand the level of development happening among my student population. So suppose after delivering a content for 15 minutes, I'm simply asking to my students to write an example of the content or the concept that is delivered to them. If it is a step by step formation of the content, I may involve my student by asking them, what do you do next? So maybe in a mathematical kind of classes, or the classes where we need to develop analytical or logical ability among student population, this kind of statements need to be the part of a classroom culture. 1 minute paper. Suppose the content is very complex by nature. So after delivering that content, I want my student to remember that information all the time for that particular subject. So I ask my student to reflect upon that information and kindly note down one or two points of that particular content. Muddiest point. So the muddiest means the most complex point. So as a teacher, I know that this particular content is very complex for my student to understand in a given class. So I can ask my student, while delivering that information, I can ask again and again to my student that what part of information is more difficult for you to understand. And suppose students are giving one or two key points for that complexity. So as a teacher, I revisit that content again and again to my students so that they can understand. Or maybe when the content is very complex by nature, I can provide handouts to my student so that they can understand that content fully while in the development phase also, and in their personal time also. Another can be paraphrasing, another can be list pros and con, or one page lecture summarization. Suppose you have engaged a class today and you want your student to go through that information before they coming or appearing for the next class. So I ask my class student to have one page lecture summarization to give them reflection that up to this extent they are able to understand the content, and up to this much level of effort they need to put in before coming to my next class. So this can be an approach by the use of which we can change our traditional lecture into an active lecture. The second major thing that we need to understand is different people learn in different way. As per the Gartner theories of multiple intelligence, there are 9 different levels of intelligence available in our population. So I'm not going into that detail because that itself is an session we need to organize. So to understand that, when I'm saying the different levels of intelligence available in human population, some may be verbal learners, some may be kinesthetic learners, some may be naturalistic learner, some may be auditory learners, some may be visual learners. So depending upon the formalized kind of learning experiences, we all develop our learning patterns. So every people learn in a different way. In your classes also, there might be few students who asked for the notes. There might be students who are very happy when you're using PowerPoint presentation as a method of teaching and you're providing those PPTs to the student. There may be students who want just to know that what kind of information the teacher is delivering. They are assessing or analyzing the previous year's question paper and developing their own content. There may be students in your class who do not want you as a facilitator. They are self-sufficient. They can go through that information by their own, and they come prepared with more advanced kind of information and asking questions to the faculty related to their doubts. There may be students in your class who want to feel that particular content, so they want tactile kind of experiences to be created in a classroom environment. So those are kinesthetic kind of learners. So for kinesthetic kind of learners, suppose it's a practical kind of environment, it is very easy for those students to go through with that information. But in a theory class, when the teacher is explaining a content, how you can fulfill the requirement of that particular population. So maybe by creating group based activities, maybe by creating team based activity where they can think of the information that is delivered by another individual and develop the common frame of understanding. So as a teacher, when I'm saying in the initial, I am saying that whenever the teacher is selecting a teaching methodology, it is also as per the comfort and order of the faculty. So as a teacher, if I'm very comfortable in a lecture method, at any point of time I can create an aesthetic kind of learning experience simply by creating a group based kind of activity. I can engage my visual learner in a classroom environment just by providing a PowerPoint presentation that is full of graphs, images, other statistical tools. So different people learn in a different way. So as a teacher, my comfort and order need to be in line with my student population. So diversity needs to be the part of your classroom experiences. So what kind of diverse experiences you will be able to create for your student? The students who are very good or at higher level of IQ ability in today's environment where teaching learning is available with the use of technology, those students might not need you for the content coverage. Those students require you to clarify their doubts or to add something new to that particular information. Once the student knows the teacher is going to teach me from XYZ reference resource, student felt disengaged from that particular environment. So on day to day basis, what new you are giving to your student, it is how you are going to engage your students in the process of learning. NEP 2020 is also focusing upon emphasizing higher order thinking skills. So, my question to all of you is, how many of you read NEP 2020? Or at institute level, how you are implementing NEP 2020 at institute level?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, Ma'am, in my previous organization, uh, I was involved in the implementation of NEP guidelines in the BSc Computer Science curriculum. So, what we had was there was a format that was given to us by Department of Higher Education, UP, and that format was to be followed where we had to design our credits per year based on the entry and exit criteria. For first year, certificate course was to be given after completion of 2 years. It was a diploma course, and for after completion of 3 years, it was BSc degree. And for honors, plus one was to be included, which included the research component in the fourth year of the BSc. So 3+1 we designed, keeping in mind this entry and exit criteria credit scores. And on that also, inside the sub courses that we used, we had to create a mix of open electives, vocational electives, and co-curricular electives. We had to give choices to the students based on three, and departmental electives. So departmental elective courses were those courses which were the core courses offered by the department in which the student was studying. Then open elective were the courses which the other departments of the university were offering, and the student was free to choose from them. Then vocational elective were the skill enhancement courses. For that, the baskets were created for the students so that they can enhance their one particular skill in any domain from the university. For example, if they choose computer science as their domain, so we offered them baskets of web designing and computer hardware. And if they choose a basket of applied science, so the applied science department offered their vocational baskets in forensics. तो मैम इस तरीके से हमने किया था. एंड को करिकुलर इलेक्टिव्स अगेन वी ऑफर्ड सर्टेन mandatory courses which were mandatory as co-curricular electives, for example yoga and food nutrition, these kinds of subjects we offered. And ma'am, like this we tried to implement this in my previous
Thank you very much, Ganga ma'am. So it is the framework that you are using for the development of NEP 2020 system. So there are many other members also like Dole Kumar, the participants, Sakshi Sachdeva. So they recently completed my study with NEP 2020 and they are implementing NEP 2020. To simplify my statement, so as a faculty, how you are going to organize your classes as per NEP 2020 criteria. So when I'm saying NEP 2020 criteria, or as per the characteristics of students available with us at different institutions, I need to understand that my students are not going to listen to me for 45 minutes. because that is their characteristic and that is not their fault, that is their behavioral trait we come across nowadays among this particular population. So when I'm saying the concentration span of this particular population is very low, so the first thing that we need to understand before using any teaching methodology is the student demand variety in a classroom environment, variety in terms of experiences. So when the teacher is organizing the classes, the teacher need to consider that my classes not only cover the content, but it also going to cater the needs of the student by adding different kind of learning experiences. So when I'm saying while interacting with the students for a research study, I come to know the students are saying that there are many of the faculty members who are showing us YouTube videos, but teachers are selecting YouTube videos by their own and they're simply showing those videos in a classroom environment, but somewhere teachers are not able to correlate the content that is delivered with them by the video, and teachers are abruptly using those video sessions in a classroom environment, and after displaying or showing that particular video there is no assessment or no even not a single question asked by the teacher that what they reflect upon that particular video, what are their key takeaways as a student after watching that particular video. So when I'm saying that the wide variety of learning experiences, students wants technology, but they want technology in a true sense that they are able to draw some meaning out of that. So the first is the variety of learning experiences need to be there, and those learning experiences for the student. It is not that the teacher is just adding experience for the student. What the student is getting out of that particular experience, that need to be known by the teacher. When I'm saying the variety of learning experience, it doesn't mean that teacher just simply adding something new in everyday session. It is in line with the content. Say for example, as a chemical engineer, I'm chemical engineer by my specialization. So as a chemical engineer, when I'm dealing with the subject of mass transfer, I know my student need to develop analytical understanding for this particular subject, content coverage. So just by showing a video doesn't serve a purpose. My student need to develop understanding of that content. So I am developing content in front of my class students step by step, so that if they have any doubts related to that particular information, I can clarify their doubts. I cannot develop a theoretical content for that particular subject because that is numerical by nature. So maybe I need to organize few of the extra classes for my student to develop but fundamental understanding of that numerical part, so that students can go through that information. For the same group, say maybe I'm using an elective of human resource management. So human resource management subject is very theoretical by nature, and there are many case studies available for that particular subject. And even in a classroom environment, suppose I'm taking an session on job satisfaction or interviews, so I can create a role play kind of a thing in a classroom environment where my student need not to read that content again and again from a textbook, but they are able to understand the meaning of that particular content. So when we are saying NEP 2020 or this particular generation wants variety of experiences, and I'm selecting an XYZ teaching methodology for the same, I need to understand that teaching method, that teaching media must be in line with the nature of the content that I'm going to provide. The faculty from the subject of mathematics, so the faculty from the subject of mathematics, they need not to use a YouTube video, they do not need to integrate even technology a lot. They need to develop the content step by step in the presence of the student, and need to give few of the assessment and activities to understand, developing understanding level of the student. So when I'm going to select the different kind of teaching methodology, it is as per the level of the student. And when we are saying higher order thinking skills need to be developed among the student, It is as per the nature of the content available. So revised Bloom's taxonomy is talking about remembering, understanding, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So we need to develop information in such a manner that in a classroom environment, remembering and understanding can be developed. Analysis also need to be the part of your classroom content development. And for assignment, there must be discussions of the activities. So when it comes to the creation of these kind of classes, we need to follow active learning cycle. So initially, attainment of the initial learning. So student, as a faculty, I need to understand that this much ability of student is available with me, and these are their prerequisites. And for the development of the content information, up to this extent, I need to develop my student population. So at institute level, we need to assess that whether there is a requirement of additional classes for this semester student. If yes, as Geeta ma'am said, there are provision of elective courses, there is provision of extracurricular activities happening at institute level. So initial learning somewhere we need to assess, and after assessing the initial requirements of the student, we need to create the different learning outcomes. And as a teacher, I need to find out how it is possible for me to achieve those learning outcome. And once I'm in a class with my student, I inquire about, so whatever I decided for my class student, whether my students are able to understand the content with that particular agenda. If not, do I need to change teaching method? Do I need to change that teaching media that I was using? So that kind of inquiry, that kind of assessment need to be there. So after taking so many instructional decisions, it is possible for my student to understand that content, and I'm verifying that information by creating smaller assessments for my student. And from their assessment score, I'm synthesizing that what kind of information my students are able to develop till now, and how I'm going to prepare them for their final evaluation or assessment. So finally, we will evaluate the performance of the student. So this is all that we need to do, and these are the major requirements that we need to fulfill as a teacher. Is the teacher must create environment for the learning. In most of the classes, we demand the student must be the part or the locus of that particular activity, and the role of the teacher is to not dictate the kind of environment. So we are here for developmental kind of teaching. We are not here for dictating the kind of teaching activities that is happening in a class. The teacher must design target specific activity. So when I'm saying target specific activity, means it is not only the knowledge and psychomotor skill that we are going to develop, but it is also the attitude of the student need to be modified. So behavior of the student also need to be considered by the teacher whenever the teacher is designing activity for the student. Say for example, we were discussing about written assignment. So why I'm giving written assignment to my student? Because I want my students to produce a structured kind of a writing. I want my student to know that when it comes to a coherent and logical kind of writing, what kind of writing they need to display or shown to me. So that is why I'm giving them written activity again and again. When I'm giving presentation as an activity to my student will develop content, my student will collect information, my student will integrate media when they are preparing PowerPoint presentation, displaying those PowerPoint presentation in front of audiences. But why I'm giving presentation as an activity to my student? Because I want my student to develop that kind of a confidence that they are able to deliver information in front of audiences. So when my students are delivering that information, maybe for my audience the PowerPoint presentation is of no mean, maybe their body attire is of no mean. As an audience, I want a specific kind of content to be delivered to me. So the student need to understand that when they are developing a content, delivering a content, and delivering to a specific audience, what kind of presentation need to be there. So that is the kind of behavior I want my student to develop. When I'm preparing a tutorial sheets to for my student, and if they are complex by nature, I want my student to go through that complex kind of an information and develop their level of understanding. So whenever the teacher is designing activity, it must be target specific activity where we are not only focusing on cognitive and psychomotor ability of the student, but at the same time I am able to modify the behavior of my learner in a true sense. So lifelong learning abilities need to be developed among student population. Student create meaning and value of learning. So whatever teacher is saying in a class, whatever the faculty is delivering in a class, whatever information you design and develop for your students, students always try to develop meaning out of that. Said why this particular activity to me again and again, why this particular instructional decision is considered by department as an appropriate, why that content is given by the teacher again and again, that is repeated by nature. So when it comes to developing an information and we are dealing with a large number of population that may be not matured by nature, the student want to ask and they want you to answer the question that is started with lots of why. So they are always going to create meaning and value out of those learning. So initially, we have discussed the various individual learning strategy that we may use for a lecture method, but there are two different other approaches also that we can use, cooperative and collaborative kind of teaching strategies. So when we are saying cooperative teaching strategies, it is for third, fourth, fifth semester students. So specifically the learners who are not matured enough for that specific school of thought. So cooperative learning means when the teacher encourages small group of students to work together for the achievement of a common goal, like numbered head together, think pair share, jigsaw method of teaching, concept mapping, stump your partner, visioning and futuring. These are few of the examples of cooperative teaching method. Collaborative teaching approaches can also be used by the teacher. So in a collaborative teaching approaches, we consider that social skills are already developed among students and students are able to exchange information by using any mean. So when I'm saying collaborative teaching method, again, depending upon the number of the members in a team, fishbowl method of discussion, case study method of analysis, blackboard share, problem and project based learning, role play method of analysis, game and simulation based kind of teaching. These are the example of collaborative teaching approaches. So on YouTube, there are many methods available with us. So how the teacher can differentiate that whether I'm going to use cooperative and collaborative teaching, it is totally dependent upon the kind of student population available with you. So when I'm saying the student population available with you, if cooperative for a smaller size, collaborative for a group based activity, cooperative where I consider that student yet to develop their social skill. So a supervised kind of experience need to be created for the student. Cooperative where I consider as a teacher that social skills are already developed and students will be able to negotiate between the group and they are able to achieve their goal. Cooperative, the teacher is going to design the complete activity for the student. In collaborative, the student will decide what they are going to do. In cooperative environment, the teacher will always be there, and if required by the student population, the teacher will provide them corrective actions. Collaborative, the students will independently do the activity, and once they consider that there is a requirement of the faculty to intervene, they may ask to the teacher. In cooperative learning environment, it can easily become the part of your traditional lecture also. So student will submit then work at the end of the class, and collaborative maybe 2 or 3 classes required by the students to complete that particular activity. So this is all from my side. So implementation of NEP 2020 is not only the designing of the framework, it is how you are going to organize your classes. That is also the part of NEP 2020.
In actually, I had question from last first session, ma'am. You have told that new generation student techniques means one of the slide and web-based learning. So, what would be our approach for this effective teaching in this particular means modern time?
So if your student demanded for the integration of technology in various sessions, and at the same time as a teacher you want to develop the basic level of understanding for the branch of specialization, The blended learning approach is a good teaching method for this particular generation. So one method may be blended approach of teaching.
Ma'am, can you elaborate, ma'am? Blended.
So in a blended approach of teaching, there are many models. So in a blended mode of teaching, in a simplest form, blended mode of teaching means the teacher will organize session in such a way that there is a physical interaction with the students, and at the same time, the students can interact with the technology when the teacher is assigning and delivering various activities on web-based resources. So it's a complete session. So that is also available on YouTube under Nitar Chandigarh, blended approach of teaching. So in detail, you can go through and find out what are the different models we can use for blended method of teaching. So it an exchange of
Okay,
experience,
ma'am. Thank you,
physical
ma'am.
as well as online. Premanand sir, please explain reflecting once again. Reflecting means, sir, when you are assigning an activity to the student, suppose you have covered a specific content in a given class and you design one activity based on that particular content. Once the student going through that particular assessment or activity, they come to know that what part of information they need to revisit again, or what is the part of that information that is complex by nature, they want the teacher to recap that information again to the student. So that is reflecting activity. They reflect upon their own learning, that what they need to know, what additional information. So that kind of reflection need to be there. So for example, in a classroom
Yes, ma'am.
environment, you
Thank you,
simply
ma'am.
define force and you provided a formula for that to calculate force also. And likewise, for that particular student, you assign one numerical and ask the student to use a given formula. If they are able to apply a given formula, it means their level of understanding is developed. If they are not able to understand that statement and they need your help, it is a reflection for that particular candidate that they need to go through that information again, and maybe the instructional decision taken by the faculty that I need to revise that information again for my class students, because it is an essential information they must have for the further information to them. So